we live in a world where we can't separate the internet from our day-to-day activities. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter has become a very important part of our lives, and it continues to influence what we do, what we shop for, and what we search online. So how does the law affect our internet usage, and to what extent are we liable for things we express on social media and on the internet? And that is our discussion today on our special episode on Law and Order today. And we are more than happy to welcome at the Channel I studio Mr. Nishant Prematiratna. He is an attorney at law and the regional representative of the International Chamber of Commerce and also a board member of the University of Kelaniya. It's a great honor to have you here.
Thank you very much, Shahara. It's great to be back on Law and Order.
And my first question to you is, now today, almost all persons in Sri Lanka, from a 13-year-old school child to a person who is maybe in his late 80s, uses the internet. It has become inseparable from our day-to-day activities, and particularly uses social media. To what extent is social media and the usage of internet is governed by law in Sri Lanka?
Well, Shahara, social media is a great thing. We have to put that out first. Social media gives everybody the opportunity to express themselves freely and to be recognized and identified. Overnight, over a period of time, through social media, you might be able to get the same recognition and publicity which the mainstream media brings to you. So those days, we were only we knew about figures who were representatives or who were seen on TV or the newspapers, but now it's not the case. But with the power being given to each and every member of the general public to freely express themselves on a platform which is available to, in respect of Facebook, it's 7 million users. Sri Lanka has 7 million users for Facebook. So 7 million, if you put a post in Sri Lanka and if that is spread and or it becomes viral, it can touch all 7 million. Now the question is, ultimately, how do you regulate people's freedom of expression on this platform? Is there a modality, or are we geared to do that? Now, for example, Shahara, today I go home and I take my Facebook account and I put a posting saying something really rude about you. And that is offensive and it might be defamatory in your context. You might feel that, why is he doing that? And now you are a public figure, this might spread around and that might cause serious damage. Then you quickly call me up and say, why are you doing this? This is what I meant when I spoke to you in respect to the program we had today. So I feel bad and I remove it tomorrow morning. But you take a screenshot and keep that. The damage has already been done. So, but for an example, say if I don't remove that, I keep that. And then that continues, then people join in, they make comments on that, they spread that further, reshare it. So it goes as wildfire, it spreads on the social media platform. Now because it's me, it's not very difficult. Our law is very clear. That's ex facie damaging, defamatory. You can go to court and you can initially send me a letter of demand and tell me this is the damage which I have caused and this is this should be brought down immediately, and I might not act on it. You can go to court and get an enjoining order ex parte, immediately restraining me or compelling me to take that down. I take that down. So that it's not very difficult. But the issue comes in a situation where there are fake postings orchestrated and effected by perpetrators who are fabricated personalities. Now that is the issue. How do you go behind somebody who is not in actual existence?
Particularly, there are a lot of issues regarding privacy where people's photographs are being used by anonymous pages, their personal details are leaked out through different profiles, and this has caused a huge threat to the individual safety and particularly right of privacy.
Yes, that's very true. So Now, when a photo of that nature comes out, what can one person do if it's a celebrity? How can, now, number one, the question is how did the photo in the first place go out to that platform? So, an introspection will have to be done by that person to check whether it's his photographer or whether he had shared it to a friend and the friend would have taken it. So, then you have remedies against the people who initially shared it. You can possibly sue them in damages. But it can be a situation where once it's on the platform and it starts becoming, or the word used is viral, becomes viral, what do you do? What can you do? Now, in a recently concluded law conference, we had a discussion by bringing one of the figures of CERT and the Facebook country representative to the junior law conference, and we questioned them on these matters. Now, especially if a client comes to us, what do we do? Now, Facebook on its own has its own reporting process. You can report. You can report something which you feel it's damaging or defamatory. You can take a screenshot, annex it to the report and just send it out. Now, I am told, I was having a chat with a senior figure at CERT yesterday, and I was told that now post Digana, where there was a lot of racial comments very freely being mentioned and posted on social media, actually that had compelled Facebook to send down their people here, and there has been now an understanding on how these things can be curtailed. So, what happens apparently is once the complaint is lodged to Facebook, Facebook would inquire from CERT as to whether the complaint is actually credible and whether they should bring this down. Now, in practice, however, it has happened to clients who I have advised. They have reported, but Facebook has only taken steps to the effect of ensuring that posting is not visible by the person who reported. But seemingly it doesn't do justice if it is still in the medium and people or public in the public are still able to view that. So, when we asked the question from Facebook, they were, they had a very legitimate answer. What they said was, how are we to know whether this is defamatory? It can be somebody expressing his opinion, and then it's a very subjective element which kicks in. So, that is why we need possibly homegrown advice on the matter. So, unless it's a damaging, it's a photograph which you have taken, it's a private photograph which is out there, that is a very simple matter. But if it is a statement like what I just explained, where I go and make a comment about you, now that might be actually my opinion. So, it's a very difficult decision. So, whether our laws are geared to effectively bring down these sort of postings is a concern. We need our authorities like CERT to be fully geared. I'm told, and I believe they are fully geared. They have the required software to do that. So, if you can also, Shahara, directly complain to CERT also. So, you can, if there is a defamatory posting and you don't know who has effected it and it's being circulated, you might be able to get an attorney at law or in person write to CERT and tell them to inspect into this matter and find out who the perpetrators through the IP addresses, etc., and bring the posting down. So, CERT would and ought to act on it, but the question is how long would it take, and how long it takes. And generally, what happens in our country is you get one thing which comes in that becomes viral for a period and then it dies down. So, generally the remedy, if something like this is happening to a client of yours, you might just tell, be patient, this will come down. But that is actually not a remedy. You can't tell your client who is every day seeing the damaging photograph or article being circulated to be patient. He will want some immediate remedy. So, we have to develop on this regard as to actually to be able to find the perpetrator.
And also, we spoke about personal remedies. That is, if a particular comment or a photograph is affecting a person or individual person. But recently, especially with the incident in Digana, and also when it comes to political posts with regard to elections, is there any criminal liability a person might face if he is posting certain comments on Facebook or sharing certain articles on Facebook or Twitter or any social media?
So now criminal defamation unfortunately is not part of our law anymore. So defamatory aspect of the criminality of defamation is no more. So possibly finding the perpetrator and filing a damages suit. But impersonating people is possibly an offence. And that
or even inciting violence?
Yes, yes. Those sort of things have their own criminal element which can be dealt with by the authorities. But defamatory per se, unfortunately, no. So that I think has unfortunately the law should evolve to bring back the criminal element of defamation. That is my personal view. That would be able to put a deterrent on everybody who is trying to make remarks on a platform which is available to the world at large. Best way, I believe, starting point of regulating social media will be to bring back the criminal element of defamation.
And also in today's context, a lot of people engage in business and commercial activities on social media, particularly on maybe on Facebook or on Instagram. So to what extent are these commercial agreements valid? Because sometimes people might start selling something on Instagram and someone might agree to buy it on Instagram itself or on a Facebook message or sometimes even a WhatsApp message. Are those legally valid and can you enforce it in courts? And what remedies does a person have if his contract is breached?
So, Shahar, as you are aware, contract is meeting of minds. Though there are so many technological advancements, the basics of a contract has not changed, meeting of minds. Now, there are certain contracts which the law has envisaged to be in a respective format, like a notarized instrument or a contract in respect of immovable property. But contracts which start from me selling you my car and you paying me an advance and going home and sending me a message saying, now Nishan, I have paid you the advance, I'm coming day after to buy the car, and I thereafter sell the car to somebody else. The only evidence you have is this SMS. Ultimately, it's the evidence. The evidence which is material, the contract might not be disputed, but the establishing the ingredients of the contract or the consideration passing, you might require that SMS. So whether we can bring that SMS before a court of law. In respect of Instagram purchases, in respect of Facebook purchases, so all those are online transactions. So there is security in the form of payments. When you effect payments, there is PayPal and there is Pay Here in Sri Lanka, now newly launched. So they have their own inherent inbuilt security protocols. But say you order something from Singapore through a advertiser on Instagram, and the goods come to Sri Lanka and they are not the one you wanted, or there is some defect in it. Now, the same principles of any contractual arrangement would come to be. So, you would have already now paid, the product has left, come here, it is not what you want. So, you will have to then write back to the supplier and say, hello, this is not exactly what I wanted. So, then the Singaporean seller will have to voluntarily tell you, okay, I am going to accept that back. But if he says and if he disputes that, that creates a whole lot of issues. Because I can tell you, Shahara, if the client comes to me, it can be a product which is worth about $25,000. For whatever it can, through the proper channels, customs, it comes to Sri Lanka and it is a loss, serious loss to my client. So my client will say, we want to sue. So, but then now the entity is in Singapore, the supplier. Now, Instagram is merely a platform which facilitates like eBay. So, one should not misunderstand that. Instagram, Facebook would not have any liability on that. They would wash their hands out. Even you purchase something on eBay or Amazon, the accreditation of the seller is given. These are the number of transactions he has entered into, and this is his track record. So you actually have to rely the seller, not Amazon or eBay. So he sends you that, he voluntarily refuses to accept that, then you have to sue him. So where are you going to sue him? You can go to the commercial high court and file a case. Is he going to come and defend? Why does he need to come and defend? He has already got the money. So that is a serious risk. If you look at it in that angle, you have to be very careful, to be very prudent and circumspect when buying things online, because there can be a lot of misrepresentations made. So reliance is actually a serious matter. When you rely, you have to trust, because suing is not easy. Getting your product to be taken back and returned, and costs borne in reshipping is also there. So those are matters you have to be very mindful.
And also we spoke about how an individual can sue another person for defamation on Facebook and social media platforms, and about commercial transactions online. And also now with the rising amount of fraud which takes place on social media, and which with the rising amount of different types of abusers, threatenings which happens on social media, this has caused serious alarms on the minds of people regarding the safety on social media platforms. We have seen situations where people are subject to blackmail. We have seen situations where people are there have been people trying to extort money or other goods on social media, and there have been situations where different types of illegal activities are carried out on social media. Child pornography is used on social media. So if a person is a victim of such an incident, what must he do next? Because a person of that who might have been a victim of such social media threats would be under tremendous pressure and tremendous social stigma as a result of that particular issue. What remedies can he or she take in such a situation?
So, if you are a victim, then number one, damage control. Now, if it is still spreading, you need that to be mitigated. So, there are professional damage control entities which come, and you can seek their professional services on how to ensure that the continuance of damage can be mitigated. That is one. Then the stigma and the fear and all of that are actually mental matters. Now, if you can find the perpetrator, you can go behind him and do everything. You can sue him, get damages. If he's in Sri Lanka, it makes matters way easier. You can do that. But what Facebook will do is, I think you and I were just having a discussion before the show. There was a, in an instance where one creates a fabricated profile, and then and uses certain individuals' photographs, and thereafter, pursuant to a complaint, that profile is brought down. But you were telling me there was another instance thereafter, the same person is creating another fabricated profile using these same photographs. So it's now continuously happening. So now, in such an instance, if my advice is what I would say, we need to go after this person. If the person is well known or known to the individual, you need to stop him in person. You need to go and get a legal remedy preventing him from doing it further. That is paramount. But if damage is done, and if some personal photograph has already gone out, sometimes an injunctive remedy is of no avail, because it's out there. So then it is a matter of damages and also getting counseling for required mental, to address the mental issues which were created owing to the postings. But perpetrator needs to be identified. That is what we need these authorities for, and that is what they are doing. And having them to do that and get us the perpetrator will get the other processes in law which are available in motion, and then we can seek the legal remedies available to us. Then Shahara, further adding to your question on the electronic transactions which were effected on social media, whether we can bring them before a court of law, yes we can, because the Electronic Transaction Act of 2006 has permitted all forms of commercial arrangements, activities effected through the electronic documents, i.e. emails, and even payments effected through SMSs can be brought in because they have a commercial culture, commercial feel about it. So those can be relied upon as evidence in terms of the 2006 Act. And you do not need to follow, you would be possessed of the 1995 Special Provisions Act in respect of evidence, which requires a 45-day notice period to be given. But if it is a commercial entity, it's a commercial transaction which the evidence is involved in, you don't need to adhere to the 1995 Special Provisions Act. So you can bring them in evidence. You can bring them in evidence, you can get a judgment against your foreign seller, but ultimately executing and getting the fruits of the judgment is the question if the seller or the vendor does not want to participate in the legal proceedings.
And without a doubt, social media is useful, but it's also a double-edged sword. So
yes,
it can be used for something useful and it can be damaging as well. So my final question to you, sir, is what is your message to the people who use social media, and what precautions can they take in preventing any damage done to them? And also, what precautions can they take about the matters which they post on social media? Because sometimes you might share something which has been forwarded to you, which can amount to hate speech, which can amount to instigating violence, which can amount to defamation, but you might unknowingly or without an intention of harming, you might share it or post it on social media. What is your message to the social media users of Sri Lanka on these issues?
That's a good question, Shahara. Now, I can tell you what I do. I don't want my social media is very neutral. I don't try to comment on controversial matters. I don't try to comment on political matters. I don't try to insult anybody else on my Facebook activity. It will be very, it's a social, social media is actually very social. What I do in my social life is on my social media, and it is not supposed to be harmful to anybody. So, because I do not engage in that manner, I don't have a lot of people coming and commenting and making rude statements on my profile. So that is number one. How you conduct yourself in society is reflected by your social media account. You have to be mindful in what you say on that platform, because now we all know, everybody in the world can see what you say on your social media. Now you go for a job interview, your name, the first thing the interviewing panel might do is check your Facebook account, see what you do, how much of parties you attend, what sort of drinking habits you have. Those will be the main concerns to them. So your social media account and how you conduct in society, if you have been slandering people on social media, and if that is visible to your job interviewer, he's not going to take you on board to his enterprise, because he will be a bad apple for that enterprise. You have to be able to ensure you self-regulate. Then in respect of posting, now if I get something shared to me on WhatsApp, I would generally, if it is something which creates public curiosity, that is the most important thing for all of us. We want to share something because it creates curiosity. We don't care whether it is actually authentic or credible. We just share it, we send it out, and then somebody sends me a thumbs up or amazing face, and then that is shared in viral. Now I would not share something. I might look at it, and even if it is a personal thing which makes me giggle, I won't share it. I will just look at it and delete it. So that is the way we should conduct ourselves. If it is an opinion, we are opinion on the 19th Amendment, my opinion is this, I should be able to freely say that on social media. But I should not try to point fingers at X and Y and Z, saying these are the people or perpetrators who did wrong in this matter and that matter. That only creates people of different cultures to come and say different things against each other, creating further disharmony. You should be mindful I believe I am a Sri Lankan, and as a Sri Lankan, how I conduct myself with all other Sri Lankans, not in respect of race or religion, matters when I am on social media.
And with that message to all our viewers, we would like to end our segment on law and order. And Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation is thankful to Mr. Nishant Premantiratne for making time off his busy schedule for coming here and sharing these insightful and useful tips on the legal aspects of using social media and the internet. And it's a great pleasure to have you here, sir.
Pleasure was mine also, Shahara. Thank you very much, and I thank the producers of Law and Order for inviting me. Thank you very much.
And with the view of meeting you again next week at the very same time, we end today's episode on Law and Order.